Today is going to be the day that the John's Jam Sessions returns back to you once again. I am your host, John, here with Mike once again. And we are reunited and we are going to talk about reunions. So, since I started this podcast, I've kind of been sitting there and I've kind of been like, I really want some like big news to happen so I can like kind of jump on it and talk about it on the podcast. Yeah. I've kind of been waiting and things have been a bit quiet and stuff's been going on in music, but it's been more in the kind of circles that we don't really necessarily follow as much. Yeah. Past 2 weeks has been quite big for music news. So I thought we'd start by getting into all that music news. And since a lot of the news is related to the topics of reunions, we're also going to talk just a bit in general about reunions. Mm-hmm. So, let's just let's roll with it. Yeah. Ride into it. Oasis. Yeah. Big Oasis news. So when was the date of the announcement again?
It was the 27th of August.
Yeah, so back then we got the announcement, just straight up tour dates, Oasis have reunited. Now, I do believe that you are a fairly big Oasis fan, would you say?
I do like Oasis, yeah. I think they're absolutely amazing greatest hits band. I think that their greatest hits collection could stand toe-to-toe with most bands in history. I think they've got so many hits that basically are just global hits. Like, everyone knows them. You don't even need to really be a fan of music to know about Wonderwall and Don't Look Back in Anger. But I also think that they've got some amazing songs in the back catalogue, such as Slide Away, obviously Cigarettes and Alcohol, songs like that. I would put on an Oasis greatest hits album and have a great time.
Yeah, not so much the albums, not so much the...
I think their albums are guilty sometimes of having filler on them.
Yeah.
Definitely maybe and What's the Story, Morning Glory are the two that are most solid in terms of they've got the biggest collection, they've got the biggest concentration of hits on them, those two albums.
Yeah.
Whereas the later albums have maybe got one or two big hits and then the rest of the albums are sort of the
middling.
Yeah, very mid to not very good. But Oasis are a great band.
So before we get into all the current topics about them, I would just like to say I do have some thoughts on this band. I think, first of all, they are a culturally massive band. Like, I think they probably are one of the last great rock and roll bands in a way. Their cultural impact was just so big, so massive. As you say, I don't think there's a single person in the world, even in the deepest jungles of the Amazon, that hasn't heard Wonderwall. Such a massive band, such kind of like an interesting history between like the brothers and the chemistry. Great example of great music coming out of Manchester. They were a rock band, but they were there in their fucking tracksuits and their coats and stuff like that. It was very kind of groundbreaking in a way. It kind of took away like the way punk did in the 70s, where it kind of stripped away a lot of what was going on with the prog scene. I think Oasis did a similar thing to that at the same time.
I think the reason Oasis was so culturally significant is in the 90s, they inspired a generation of young working class kids on the scale that I don't think I've seen any other band from our generation do. You know what I mean? That anyone on the street, any just common lad on the street, would love Oasis, would idolise Oasis, and they gave off the impression to that generation that we're just the same as you. We are working class lads from Manchester. We've not got much, coming out of Thatcher's Britain when there was a bit of a depression going on, late 80s, early 90s. They sort of stood apart. It was like the grunge movement in America basically stripped away all the bells and whistles of the music of the 80s and basically brought everything back down to grassroots level and shown people on the street, like, you can do this because we do this. Oasis were that. I think Oasis were that version of that we have in this country.
Yeah.
In terms of,
I can't think of a single band that has had such a massive cultural impact as Oasis. Since Oasis, there's been plenty of massive bands, and the 2000s had like the only other band that probably make a comparison to is probably like Arctic Monkeys.
Yeah, it's not quite the same for me.
No, it's not quite the same. No,
Oasis was a huge sea change for me. Whereas obviously they borrowed a lot from bands of the late 80s. Like the Happy Mondays and Stone Roses, and
Beatles.
Obviously, the Beatles were a huge influence, but I'm talking about taking a sound that already existed and basically taking away the psychedelic elements of that sound and adding anthems upon anthems.
That's a nice bit of praise. However, here's my take.
Go on.
This is a band that fell off, I think.
Well, yeah.
I think that, they're built up, as you say, by their greatest hits. But I think when they split up around 2009, I think there was a bit of fatigue with them. I don't think the breakup was I think there's been a bit of revisionist history on this band. I don't think the breakup was as tragic as people kind of made it out to be. I think like the last few albums were getting really kind of like pretentious
Yeah, they
and
were.
really like up themselves. I think Liam Gallagher is quite insufferable as a person. So they break up, and one thing I'd say is, if you listen to kind of more like rock based alternative indie radio stations, you for the past however many years now have not been able to escape anything about the Gallagher brothers at all. Like the whole solo careers. I know more about Noel Gallagher's solo career than I know what my cat's been up to today. Like it was always like all the songs were getting played on the radio. I kind of more gravitated towards what Noel was doing rather than Liam. I think Liam was the one that never really quite got over the split, and I think he was doing the Oasis for the Oasis fans. And that's another thing that, as we'll get into with everything that's been going on recently, is kind of like, I don't really think Oasis ever really went away.
Yeah,
I think you got two sides of them coming out at the same time.
Yeah.
Liam Gallagher more or less just being Oasis without Noel.
Yeah.
And when he played live, I saw Noel Gallagher live actually, supporting U2 of all people.
Oh, yeah.
The sets have had a lot of Oasis in them.
Liam does, yeah.
For me, obviously, I'm not the biggest fan, but I struggle to see how people would have missed them. And for years, this reunion has been getting spoken about for years. Like, it's just never stopped being spoken about. Rumours, them getting interviewed about it, all the likes of that. You know what I mean? It was just, it's never really been out of the public consciousness. So when this announcement happened, I was a bit like, oh yeah, wow, this is cool, yeah. But it was always a when, not an if for me. Yeah, so that's kind of like what I have to say on that front of Oasis. Like,
yeah, do you know what I find quite odd about this reunion? That as the weeks have gone since the announcement, as the couple of weeks have gone, is how little media there's been, and how, in terms of the Gallagher brothers themselves,
there's a lot of mystery around it. Isn't there? There's a lot of like, what's going on.
I haven't seen one face-to-face interview with either of them since that announcement was made, and I haven't heard from any of the previous Oasis members either. So I was thinking Oasis are reforming, which means that the 4 original members of Oasis are going to be back touring as Oasis. But when you look at the promo pictures and you read articles, it's just the 2 of them. It's just Noel and Liam.
Yeah.
Basically just promoting this. So who's going to be the backing band? There's been rumours that it's basically just going to be Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds.
I've heard that as well.
But with Liam involved as well, which to me, that's not Oasis. And I know it's just a drummer, and anyone can play drums, and you don't see the drummer, he's at the back and all that, and the bassist is just the bassist, but still, you're calling it Oasis. Should be Oasis, really. If you're talking about a grand scale reunion, because these, like you said then, these Oasis tracks haven't gone anywhere. They've been getting played live by Liam's band. So what's special about this if it's just Liam and Noel singing the songs that Liam's been singing anyway? Yeah. What's actually special? It'd be special if it was all 4 of the band members back together and like
new album.
Maybe even a new album. But I don't think I don't think that the Gallagher brothers have anything in common artistically anymore. So I can't see.
That's what I mean. I find it quite a fork off. Yeah,
I can't see a new album. I just can't for the life of me see them recording new material.
I just say with the air of mystery, it's kind of like, and there's a lot of speculation, there's a lot of rumour about this, and it's all been drummed up, and it's part of the problem, and it's, in my opinion, this has all kind of gone a bit to shit, to be honest, as we'll get into. But as you say, we'll talk about it after Oasis, actually, because what's just happened over the past 24 hours is the perfect example, perfect standard of how to form a reunion. But getting back onto the Oasis, I think that this air of mystery has also bubbled up so much hype and anticipation. They just posters up, these are the tour dates, get them while they're here. This is it, this is your chance, come and see us. No, like, this is it, we're back for good now. No, like, this is our, 5-year plan. It's just, here's some dates, come and see us.
Yeah.
The media has gone. The media just went out of control immediately. Like, this is how hard tickets are going to be. FOMO. I think they're drumming up this FOMO, and the media's buzzing off it, going like, "Oh, what's going on?" and all stuff like this.
Yeah.
So originally, me and Tom, we said to each other, we'd like to go. We'd like to go see Oasis.
Yeah.
I thought, yeah, I'm more than down to go see Oasis. So the night before the ticket, so I try for the pre-sale thing. Don't get any response from them. And I'm thinking to myself, tickets can be hard to get, but if you're sensible and you're a bit sharp on the ball, they're not that hard to get your hands on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you've got the free time, if you a bit tech savvy, you can get your hands on them quite easily. So the night before, open up the Ticketmaster, make sure I'm logged in on the laptop, make sure my card details are saved. I'll leave the website open,
Yeah.
shut the lid, go to bed. Wake up in the morning, open up my laptop. I'm still on the Ticketmaster website, and it's got that little thing of join the waiting room. So join this waiting room. 9 o'clock was it? 9 o'clock on the dot hits, more or less. I get put in a queue of about 6,000 people.
Right.
So I'm thinking, right, 6,000 people. I'm doing the maths. Four ticket limit. 6,000 people capacity. The man. It was one of the Manchester dates I went for, and I went for like the Wednesday as well. Like one of the less popular dates.
Yeah.
So I'm like 4 tickets max, 6,000 people. Putting it in my calculator. That's about 20. Like if every person there got 4 tickets, that's about 20,000 people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I thought, well, that's it. I've got a ticket here. I'm sorted. I'm quids in. I even let my friend know who's also looking for tickets. Like, look, I'll get your tickets. Send me the money. I'll get 4. I only originally was going to get 2. I was like, well, I may as well get 4. You know what I mean? I'm in a good, because a lot of people were saying I can't even get on the website.
Yeah.
The website's crashed. I can't even get on it. I was like, I'm on the website. I'm in the queue. I'm like literally at this point and giving constant updates. Like, look, I'm literally like 500th in the queue. I've got these tickets in the bag. Get into the queue, get onto the webpage, fucking banging, standard ticket, £150, which is a lot of money.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
A lot of fucking money.
Yeah.
Too much money in my opinion. But you know what? It's a one in a rare occasion situation. Bang, 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 1, 2, 3, 4. Click. Little loading wheel, the old hang on while we grab your tickets. And I'm like, okay. A minute goes by and I'm like, okay, the website's a bit slow. It's okay. There's a lot of traffic. Error. Something went wrong. Oh, what's this? 1, 2, 3, 4. Click again. Spinning wheel. Few minutes. Something's gone wrong. Panic starts to set in a little bit now. I'm getting a little panicky. I'm like, oh shit, what's going on here? So I try other options. I'm like, right, well let's just focus on myself. 1, 2, check. Something's gone wrong. Fuck's sake. And then there's like the packages and stuff like that. So I go for a coach package with Liverpool. 1, 2, 3, 4. Something went wrong. And I'm like, what is going on? What the fuck is going on? So I literally spent 2.5 hours on that website trying to get the tickets at the checkout. And like usually most normal people will go, fuck this, I haven't got the tickets, give up. But because I felt like I'd got so far and everyone else was like stuck behind me, not even being able to get on the website, I was like, no, I've got the tickets are right here. I just need the fucking thing to work. I did it for 2.5 hours. And then eventually I just went, I give up. I don't want them anymore. Don't even care anymore. As all this was happening, I had my phone out. And then all the news articles started coming out going, tickets have gone up now. They're about £400. I was like, no, thank you. Goodbye. I'm going to enjoy the rest of my life. Fuck this. Close the lid.
What an shit show.
It's a nationwide bloody news story now, isn't it?
Absolute shit show, man. I just don't understand why you would not have seen this coming as Ticketmaster operator or whatever. And who's responsible for the website not having the bandwidth to get everyone on? Who's responsible for the constant errors occurring when you're already at the checkout? What's gone on here?
Because I've got a level of sympathy, but then I turn around and be like, well, I'm sure at peak times Facebook has more traffic.
Yeah, exactly.
And Facebook can manage to run. Like, all you are is a basic checkout shop. Like, it shouldn't be that hard.
No.
And part of me blames the news and the media and all the FOMO and all the drumming up to this. And like we said before, like, was this something to get so sensational about in the first place? Oasis, they just never really went away, and this was always coming. So it just, to me, there's a level of bitterness behind this, where it's like, at the end of the day, I'm not the biggest fan.
Yeah, I
I'm
can live
not
with
crying
that.
tears about it. I
Yeah.
would have liked to have gone, but it's like, hey ho,
Yeah.
it's not going to happen. But the most egregious thing about it is the ticket pricing and the
Mm.
dynamic ticking pricing. What is going on there?
Oh,
That is just
I
unacceptable.
couldn't believe that. Like, my sister was trying for tickets at the same time. I say I was trying for tickets. I was in work. I worked shifts, so I was in work on a Saturday morning, and I ended up in the queue to get on the website, which took me about half an hour. And then I got on the website and I joined the queue at number 141,000 and something. So I just laughed and gave up.
Yeah.
But she was in the queue for hours, and she got to the checkout, and by the time she got to the checkout, they were £355 the tickets, and she just went, "Fuck that."
Yeah,
No chance.
disgraceful, disgraceful behaviour.
What? How is that? Who's paying? Who is paying that? I don't care how big an Oasis fan you are. If you are paying those prices, you are part of the problem.
We said this on the live gigs episode, didn't we? But this is part of the problem.
Yeah.
People build up so much FOMO, like with the Taylor Swift shit. It's like, I don't care how much this costs. I have to go and see this band. I have to go and see this. I have to be part of this historical event. And it's because they've not come out. There's been no interviews. There's no like, yeah, we're back together forever now. It's or they haven't just turned around and said, we're just doing this tour and we're going back on our solo careers after that. It's because of that. So Robert Smith of The Cure, he fought tooth and nail to stop this dynamic pricing, and he exposed a lot of stuff, and he basically said it's the band's choice.
Yeah.
So again, there's been no official statements. As we've been recording this, or just a few hours before, Liam Gallagher has tweeted.
Oh, okay.
Are you ready for this?
Go on,
This is a blind reaction. Oasis are back, you're welcome. And I hear our attitude stinks. Good to know something's never changed. Liam fucking Gallagher.
Oh, what's he talking about?
So he's basically going, oh, we're back and you're still moaning. What's your problem?
Oh, Christ.
Someone's replied, didn't expect them to rip off the fans as much as they've done. It's generally a shame. He responded, shut up.
Oh, dear God. Well,
he's basically love for this band that is now kind of flown out the window for me.
He is basically just saying what we've just said. He's basically just saying it is our fault that these tickets cost so much. Yeah, it is on us, and what?
Because I'm still when I was talking to Tom, and he was before the ticket prices and all that came up, he was going, "It's going to cost a bomb, it's going to cost a bomb." And I said, like you said, so the Gallaghers are working class men from Manchester. Like their solo gigs don't cost much. They've always been fairly down to earth. This is not going to happen. Alas, I ate my words. You know what I mean? I mean, the ticket prices in Cardiff and Edinburgh weren't that much. They were about 70 odd to 80 odd.
Seated,
originally, yeah.
Seated, they were 70 to 80, but standing, they were 150. But my mate was trying to defend them as well the other day. He was saying, well, it's the venues that have a contract with Ticketmaster, and they're the ones that do the prices. The band only have so much control and stuff.
There is an element to that, but ultimately the bands do have a say.
I said the band are choosing to play that venue, aren't they? Ultimately the venue will do what the band tell them to at the end of the day. The band don't want to sell tickets at a certain price, then they won't be sold at a certain price. Otherwise, the band will not play that venue. What would the venue do? Would the venue lose all that revenue just for the sake of some contract that they signed with Ticketmaster? I don't know. There's got to be some room. There's got to be some wiggle room. There's got to be some, because £355. I don't care about dynamic pricing. I just don't care about that nonsense term. That's scandalous. That is absolute daylight robbery. And for Liam Gallagher to say that, then he's just shown us exactly, from what they were when they broke through in the 90s, a group of working class lads, men of the people and all that sort of stuff. I don't think he could be any further from that right now, if that's his attitude.
Yeah, I mean, I know he's a bit trollsome and a bit cheeky, but
some things are not a laughing matter, and this is people getting robbed.
There's clearly a lot of upset going on at the moment, and to not come out with anything really like official or any resolvement to this, and the only thing they've done is announce more dates, which is just going to be more fucking bullshit.
Yeah,
it's not good. So
just imagine if you were someone that bit the bullet and paid £355 for your tickets because you had no other choice at Wembley Stadium, right? What would your reaction be to the news coming out now that they've announced 2 more dates at Wembley Stadium and the tickets are £150 again? I'd be fuming. I'd be absolutely steam coming out my ears.
One thing I think is more the fact of like, so you buy the tickets, you wait a year, and then as you say, nothing's really come out. We don't actually know what's
Hmm,
going on between the two of them. They
yeah,
still fucking hate each other. They're on complete opposite ends of the stage. It's a very awkward
yeah.
bash through the songs, and then you're done.
Who
And you're like,
knows?
well, they are paid like
Yeah,
once you put travel and everything into it, you're probably paying like what near close to £1,000
yeah,
in a way.
yeah.
And you're like, wow. I just paid £1,000 to see like a cash out, you know what I mean? A sellout cash grab.
Those high flying birds featuring Liam.
Yeah. So this is a reunion. When it started, but it's funny that we actually pushed this episode back a bit because, like, we the attitudes would have been very different.
Yeah,
Now I'm very soured by this reunion. I'm like whatever. Yeah,
I agree.
do your thing, lads. Yeah.
Especially after seeing that quote from Liam there. That's rubbed me up the wrong way. That.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, like, I'm not being funny, and, I go on about less is more, and I hate the kind of elitism in music, but
Hmm.
if you want me to, I can just grab that acoustic guitar right there, and I can do half an Oasis set for you if you want.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So that's the first big spicy bit of news. Just on that actually, because it's somewhat related. There was other little bit of a bit of reunion news or lack of reunion news. So during the whole hype of this, Morrissey came out
Oh yeah.
and he stated that he's been approached for a Smiths reunion
Hmm.
with quite a large sum of money to do so,
Yeah.
but Ma has declined it.
Right.
Any thoughts on that?
Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? I assume that there's been no official statement from either of them on that. Just the fact that he's declined.
The thing is, and I do really like Morrissey, but he is known for telling fibs.
Right.
It wouldn't surprise me if that never
Yeah.
happened, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think maybe a while back, that probably, people were knocking at the doors begging them to come back. With Morrissey's more recent actions and his kind of fall from grace and the fact that,
Yeah.
let's be real, he can't even get signed to a label at the moment.
Yeah.
It seems a little bit hard to believe,
Yeah,
doesn't it, to
it
be
does.
honest?
It does. Yeah, yeah. So I wouldn't read too much into that. I wouldn't go sort of like chastising Johnny Marr or anything because we don't know any of the facts, do we?
No, I mean,
It's basically a rumor, isn't it?
it wouldn't surprise me. Let's put it that way. It wouldn't surprise me. I think like Morrissey made a bit of a quip at him, going like, "Oh, well, I sell out bigger venues and you support bands." But I think Johnny Marr just likes that. I
Yeah,
think he just likes having the work,
yeah.
doesn't he? He's never really been too much about that, to
No,
be
no.
honest.
Well, the Smiths in the 80s were an indie band. They were an independent band, weren't they? They weren't like massive stadium headliners or anything. So
No, no.
I find it strange that Morrissey's gone. Well,
It
no, I
would be
don't find it
bizarre to
strange.
see them in that
It would be
environment,
very odd.
wouldn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
I don't. Morrissey's. I'm not surprised by his ego, but it is what it is, isn't
He's a colourful
it?
character,
Yeah.
isn't he? Let's say the least. Other big news. This is something I've been following quite a bit.
Hmm.
So around the same time as the Oasis announcement, Linkin Park put up a 1 hour countdown timer on their website, which
Hmm.
was actually funnily enough to kind of end around the same time as this Oasis announcement. A lot of hype was getting built up around this. Everyone was like, "Oh, what's going on with Linkin Park?" It's been rumours for a couple of years now that they're going to be coming back and they've got themselves a new singer.
Hmm.
Countdown runs out. I'm on the website looking at the countdown, going, check this out. Goes to 0. Oh, what's happening? What's happening? Countdown. Countdown becomes a count up and just starts counting up. And
Right.
everyone's like, oh my God, what the hell? You know what I mean? A lot of people found it a bit distasteful because obviously the
Yeah.
sensitivity around, Chester Bennington and kind of the status with the band. However, eventually they dropped a date, which was yesterday, and said to tune in to a live stream at it was about 11 o'clock over there
Yeah.
in the UK. So I was in bed. I checked it out, waiting to see, what is it going to be? Song? Is it going to be a statement? Something like that. It was a live gig.
Right.
Started off all the members, obviously no Chester there.
Yeah.
The drummer as well wasn't there either. I think he has decided not to come back.
All right.
All come on the stage, song starts, and a woman comes onto the stage, a woman called Emily Armstrong, and they basically just rip into an hour-long set. First kind of live performance since I think they did like a special
Yeah.
tribute concert, didn't they, in like 2017. Me personally, I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was
Right.
really good, and I was really pleased with the direction they've gone in to carry on the band without Chester,
Yeah.
because there was rumours that the lead singer of Sum 41 was going to be joining them, and I was like, I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
No.
No offence against the guy, but I
No.
don't want someone from a,
Mm.
from a band of
Mm.
yesteryear,
A competing
coming
band.
in and yeah,
Yeah.
doing a Chester impression.
No.
I'm glad that they've gone in kind of like a different direction,
Mm.
like female vocalist.
Yeah.
And she was singing in her own kind of style, but she could also do that Chester Bennington, that
Mm.
harsh vocal
Yeah.
that he can do. And it was a stellar set, and I really liked it. And admittedly, I even got like a little bit emotional from it.
Yeah.
It was kind of great to see the smiles on all the band's faces. You could tell that this is out of passion,
Yeah.
not out of like Oasis,
Yeah.
just a cash grab.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, there's the sensitive issue, and I think you've got a bit to say, haven't you,
Mm.
on the whole issue of carrying on what once a
Yeah.
member's died. So,
Yeah.
do you want to talk about that?
I mean, I don't know whether I have loads to say because, or not on this specific issue, because I
There are
never,
ones we'll get into down on the list.
yeah, I have never been like the biggest Linkin Park fan ever, so I've got no real emotional attachment towards, Chester.
Yeah,
I mean, I respect the guy. Obviously, it's terribly tragic what happened to him. But I was trying to put myself in the mind frame of like a long time Linkin Park fan, someone who idolised Chester, and I was thinking, I don't know how I'd react to this news because it just for me, if I was that person, I just wouldn't. It wouldn't feel anything like Linkin Park to me. It just wouldn't.
yeah,
It might be very good. And she might be a great singer, and she might, be a great front person for the band. But is it Linkin Park? Can you put the Linkin Park name on it without Chester? Especially knowing what it's not like he's just left. It's like the fella's gone. You know what I mean? Like what you said, like who knows what Chester's opinion would have been on this?
yeah.
No one will ever know. Even Mike Shinoda won't know. You know what I mean? Like he's the guy who was closest to him in the band. So I'm torn on it. I'm conflicted. I'm happy for the band members that they are finding, that they are carrying on with their careers. I'm sure Chester would have wanted that for sure. But am I sure about this being marketed as a Linkin Park reunion? I don't know. 100% on the fence with it.
I did a podcast. I did an episode kind of touching this subject back earlier in the year, actually, when he released a greatest hits album. I put it on Reddit, and I got some responses. I said, what would you think to replacing the singer? And it was a very mixed bag. A lot
Yeah,
of people were like, let's leave Linkin Park
yeah,
as
yeah,
it was now. It's a legacy.
yeah,
Let's leave it be. Some people were like open to the idea. When the rumours started swirling round, and there were rumours of a female vocalist, I thought to myself, that could
yeah,
work.
yeah,
You
yeah,
could breathe new life into this and make it something new again.
yeah.
As you say, it's not the first time that bands have carried on once a pivotal member has died. And all I'll say on the matter is, and we're getting a bit heavier for this kind of podcast,
No,
but
it's good. It's good.
suicide is something that's heavily affected my life. I've known someone very close to me who's unfortunately committed suicide. It destroys everything around you. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It can tear everything up. And again, like as you say, we'll never know his true intentions. Say he never did that and he just
yeah,
quit the band, it's a
yeah.
different story then,
It
because it's
is.
like you've voluntarily moved, you've voluntarily left this band.
Yeah,
It's very different circumstances, but at the same time, I would like to think that he wouldn't want. The thing is with a band is it's not just the members in the band, is it? It's the road crew
mm.
that are on payroll for gigs. It's
Yeah. To an
there's
extent.
many cogs and moving parts to it, so it is a more complex beast. Chester Bennington was a pivotal member, but he wasn't a founding member. He wasn't a founding member, and it's not like
Been
the
on all
case
the
of.
records though, hasn't he?
He's been on all the records, but he wasn't just the primary sole songwriter. He wasn't the
No,
primary sole.
I get that.
He was the front man. He was the face, but he also at the same time he did have a shared kind of role with Mike.
Yeah.
So it is a complex one.
Mm.
I think that the reception to this, from what I've seen personally, has been very positive.
Yeah.
I thought it was very good.
Yeah.
because, as I say, they put on a stellar performance. It's a great gig. It was great to hear like some of them songs live again, and it's great to kind of see a bit of new life brought into an old thing. You know what I mean?
Does it not feel a little bit tribute bandish though for you? You know, when you're watching that and
Ever so
it's
slightly.
yeah,
Ever so slightly. So they've announced the tour. I'm going to go. Well, I'm going to try and go to the London one. Hopefully, don't have the same issue as fucking the Oasis tickets.
yeah,
I've actually got a pre-sale code this time, so hopefully I'll have better luck. And they've released a new album. Well, they're going to release a new album, so I've pre-ordered that. So I'm very interested. I'm
yeah,
very on board, and I feel like it could work. I feel like there's always going to be that elephant in the room.
yeah. There
They
is.
even addressed it at the gig. You know, they did the band introductions, and they kind of said the role of Chester tonight will be all of us in
Yeah,
this room tonight. You know what I mean? Which is very, very nice and very kind of like heartfelt, and
yeah,
very, very, a nice way to do it instead of being like, the role of Chester is now Emily Armstrong. You know, she's
yeah.
being treated more as a new member than a replacement.
I know.
I think that they've left it long enough now as well. Like if this was only a few years
Yeah,
afterwards, I
true.
would have been a lot more like, no, 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 stop this, stop this.
Yeah,
I think enough time's passed
yeah,
that I don't know. For me, it feels right.
yeah.
I
Right.
mean,
Good.
only time will tell.
Yeah,
They've released a new song. I think the new song's very good.
yeah.
Yeah,
I suppose you're more qualified to talk on this as a long time Linkin Park fan, someone that was a fan when Chester was in the band. So you know, I'm only talking hypothetically from a point of view of a fan. If I was a fan, you know, putting myself in a fan's shoes.
yeah.
So, and I can see both sides of it as
There
well.
will be people like that, Dan.
Yeah,
Hands down, there will be people like
I can definitely see both sides of it. So, but I ultimately I am glad that the fans seem happy enough that Linkin Park's coming back with new material as well. So there's clearly still a creative spark there.
Yeah, I think it would be worse if it was just, we're a touring band
Then
now
it'd
under
be
this.
then it'd be
I think
tribute
that would be
bandish.
like, as you said, tribute band, but it's the fact that they carry on, they're making new music,
Yeah,
they're moving on. I think it's good. That covers the news segment
yeah,
of the podcast.
yeah,
So let's just get into reunions in general. I've got a list of what I deem as my kind of favourite reunions.
yeah.
Some of them are one-off gigs. Some of them are just one band member returning. Here's the couch man. So I'm just going to have to pause this. The couch is delivered. The room's full of furniture. Let's resume. So some of my favourite reunions. Some of these I've seen. Some of these are, they were one-off concerts. Just individual band members coming back into the bands. So I've got the Pink Floyd Live 8 2005 performance.
Yeah.
A one and done, a one off, short set, but man, it was amazing. It was one of them you never thought it would happen. The last time all original, well, obviously except for Sid Barrett, were together. Unfortunately, now we've lost Rick Wright. It's
Mm,
only Roger, David, and Nick as surviving members. So we're never really going to quite get that feeling once again, just like in Comfortably Numb.
yeah.
As we've just spoke about this current Linkin Park thing, very, very excited for what's going to come of that. My Chemical Romance, after which
Yeah.
I've seen live back
Whatever
in.
whatever happened to the new album that they were supposed to release?
Well, this is a good point again about reunions. There's just really been no news on it. They came out, they announced tour dates. They've
Yeah.
done a bit of a world tour.
They had a single. They put a single out,
They
didn't they?
did, yeah. It was really badly produced as well.
Yeah. See, I was thinking like since then, there's just been crickets, radio silence, hasn't there? It's
Yeah,
been like really weird.
you would assume something's happening. There's a
Yeah.
lot of the promo artwork seems quite new and
Yeah.
unique. It's like surely something's happening, but not quite sure. There, Iron Maiden, Bruce Dickinson's return in 2000.
Yeah, again, I don't consider things like that a reunion because it's just a singular member going out and coming back in. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Iron Maiden kept going through the 90s, didn't they, under the Iron Maiden name? So I get what you mean because it was basically the band, not the original band, obviously, without Paul Di'Anno, but the classic lineup back together, wasn't it?
yeah,
It was the classic lineup as it was, plus Yannick tagging on like a bit of a sticking plaster. They just kept him around just to be nice.
It's adorable. That it is cute, isn't it? It's like, oh, you know what? We won't kick it. Come along with us. Come along with us. You can do some dance moves on the stage. Go on, very cute. Well, you might not include this either, but we've got John Frusciante, 2 returns. I think the biggest one, obviously, was his one in the late 90s. Coming back, that Californication to Stadium Arcadium run, and then coming back again. It's something I didn't really think was going to happen. And again, I went to see him live. Very great experience.
That is the original lineup as well, isn't it?
Well, from Blood Sugar onwards, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
This band did split up for a while. Blink 182 came back in 2011 after a 6-7 year break. Didn't really blow the head off it, did they? With that one, Tom left again, and then he came back a few years ago, and pretty all right. System of a Down. They all kind of split off, did their solo careers. No musical output or anything like that, but they're touring, and it's great if you want to go see him, isn't it? And the last one I put on here is Head returning to Korn in 2013. You love to see it, don't you?
Yeah.
So, are there any reunions that you mark out as standout reunions to you? Have you seen any reunited bands play after the reunion?
Well, these are not. It's not as big. It's not as big scale, but I don't know if you've ever heard of a band called the Mars Volta.
I have, yeah.
Yeah, they are a progressive rock band. Two main brains behind the band, the Omar Rodriguez and Cedric Bixler Zavala, were the 2 members who formed the Mars Volta from the ashes of another band called At the Drive-In. So At the Drive-In split up in 2000, I think. Mars Volta's first album came out in 2003. So it was basically the 2 members, the guitarist and the singer from At the Drive-In, formed a new band called the Mars Volta. They went on to be basically a flagship band for modern progressive rock. They released 2 of the best modern progressive rock albums of this millennium, basically, in the debut and Francis the Mute. They split up in 2012, 2013, I think, and then Omar Rodriguez went off and did his own little side project, solo projects. And then in 2017, roughly 5 years after the Mars Volta split up, they actually tried to reform At the Drive-In again. So they came back and played some tours, and they supported Royal Blood. So I saw them in 2017 supporting Royal Blood, but I was a fan of At the Drive-In, and I was like, At the Drive-In are back, and they're supporting Royal Blood, which is amazing. So I went to this gig. They were terrible. At the Drive-In, they were absolutely awful. They released an album that year which went down like a lead balloon. It was just so it sounded like the hearts were just not in it at all.
Yeah.
The At the Drive-In reformation. So I came away thinking, oh god, I think they might be finished now then, as a sort of creative force. Lo and behold, 2022 comes round and the Mars Volta are back, and they release a new studio album, which is okay. But as a result of the new album coming out, they're back touring again. And I saw them last year at Manchester Apollo, and it was absolutely mind-blowingly good. One of the best gigs I've ever been. Amazing. They sounded amazing. Cedric sounded spot on vocals. They played a quality set list full of all old Mars Volta tracks. Only got a couple off the new album. Thought it was absolutely amazing. So as of a reunion that has happened recently that I've lived through and sort of, been a part of in terms of attending shows and stuff like that, that's probably one of my favourites of recent years. A band that I absolutely loved growing up as a young adult. They were back together, and I saw them live, and they didn't disappoint me, because I was worried when I saw At the Drive-In. I was like, oh god, they just don't seem like they've got that fire in the bellies at all anymore. And then those worries were extinguished when I saw the Mars Volta. They're absolutely amazing. As far as we're talking reunions that I've lived through and experienced the reunion part of it, I'm struggling, I must admit. I am struggling.
Yeah, I think the thing with reunions, as you say, whichever kind of way you want to kind of interpret it, a true reunion, even if the band still carries on, I consider past members coming back, a reunion of sorts, it's usually for not the best reasons, and it usually comes down to money. It's usually someone getting a bit too big for the boots, leaving the band for one reason or another. I'm going to go off. I can make it on my own, and it's usually coming back, kind of like kind of eating a bit of humble pie, aren't they? Like,
Yeah,
can I come back in the band, please? Can I have some money? Like when I think of John Frusciante, as much as I love the Chili Peppers, I do kind of think like the bank account might have been getting a little bit
yeah,
low. His solo albums don't really sell.
yeah,
Tom may say that they're not meant to, but
yeah,
you go from like by the way money to just kind
yeah,
of a bit of royalties, and especially these days most bands sell off their
yeah,
royalties, don't they? They sell off the
yeah,
back catalogue, so it's stuff like that where it's like, yeah, I've got your sus there,
yeah,
mate. I've got your number. I know why you've come back. I
yeah.
know why this band's come back.
Well, I was trying to think of a band that had reformed for purely creative purposes and had actually got better on Reformation. And I could think of one band, although this is a band that I'm sort of going back historically to their Reformation. And I'm not talking about because when they reformed, I wasn't a fan of this band, but I'm a huge fan of them now.
Mm.
And I can recognise that when they reformed, they've actually released some of their best work ever, and it's a band called Swans. So you've got to give me a little bit of time to give you some context there.
Talk away, my friend.
So this band originally formed in the early 80s, part of the no wave scene in New York. They were a punk adjacent industrial, very underground genre. It was an inaccessible, unwelcoming, grimy sound. Michael Gira is the main brain and the only original member of the band left. So in the mid to late 80s, Swans decided to change for the first time their style, and they sort of transitioned into more of a post-punk and gothic rock band. Albums like Children of God, White Light from the Mouth of Infinity, and then The Great Annihilator. Albums that I actually think you may even enjoy if you listen to them because you're a fan of gothic rock and post punk, aren't you?
Yeah,
This is the first sort of stage of their career where I could say genuinely classic album, a stretch of classic albums were
yeah,
released. So it gets to the mid 90s, Great Annihilator, amazing album. The year after The Great Annihilator comes out, they release an album called Soundtracks for the Blind, which is an album that I cannot really describe in words. The concept behind this album is that it's the soundtrack to a film that doesn't really exist. So it's a 2.5 hour long album
oh,
that is basically stylistically all over the place. It's genres such as like ambient noise,
yeah.
drone, sound collage, post rock songs, long, lengthy 15-minute post rock songs. It is possibly the strangest album I've ever heard, but there's something about it that makes me just keep going back to it. And I'm like, wow, that is like, how do you even write that? This album was the end of the band. This album killed the band off. 1996, Michael Gira goes off and he forms a band called Angels of Light, who are like neo folk gothic country. Decent, but it's not Swans. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
got that massive scope. So in 2010, which is 14 years after the last Swans album, Michael Gira came back with a brand new lineup and called it Swans. And everyone was like, okay, this is weird. This is Michael Gira with a bunch of fellas who he worked with in Angels of Light. And,
Yeah,
you
not
know,
the first time that's been done.
yeah. So at the time, obviously going back and reading up on it, it was very sort of like tentatively received. It was a little bit like, don't really know how this is going to turn out.
Yeah, yeah.
And lo and behold, they come back with a trilogy of albums from 2012 to 2016 that are so vast in scope, so massive in sound, so boundary pushing for rock and ambitious rock albums. So you've got The Seer in 2012, you've got To Be Kind in 2014, and you've got The Glowing Man in 2016. Now, these are albums that I don't think you will like because they are considered critically to be some of the best rock albums released this century.
Yeah.
Um,
According to whom?
critics
All
critically.
right, okay, yeah.
And I'm talking like music critics,
Yeah,
hardcore music fans. Like
yeah.
they are like just so mind blowing these albums, and I don't think that they have. Well, they have not topped those three albums since that. They've released two albums since then, which are both very good, but nowhere near on the scale of them albums. And I think all the styles that they've toyed with throughout the career, I don't think they've really ever come close to such grand statements as these albums are. So that's just the only example I could think of a band that came back after a massive stretch of time and were creatively a new band and better than they've ever have been. And I know that Michael Gira is the only remaining member of the band from the initial period when they were Swans, but does it count? Does that count as a reunion to you? Because there's one member.
It's very messy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's very messy, Again, the prime example I think of the one that was floating in my head was Axl Rose's Guns N' Roses Sierra,
Oh,
2001 to about 2015.
yeah.
Again, he's the only original member of the band. However, he is such a pivotal member of that band, and it's all very messy. Pink Floyd carried on without Roger Waters, without Sid Barrett.
That was
It was
really strange,
basically
wasn't it?
Gilmour's solo work that he just reworked into Pink Floyd because he wasn't selling enough tickets for his solo tours.
What about that? What about the Endless River? Like what is that?
Oh, that was just scrapped. That
Yeah.
was cuttings off the studio floor. That
So that came out 20 years after the last Pink Floyd album, didn't it?
it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah,
It was 10 years. It was
2014.
from 1994 to 2014.
So it's 20 years in between those albums.
Oh yeah, it
20
is.
years.
Yeah.
So
Bloody hell, that makes me sick.
yeah. So
Yeah, and it was after that Live 8 performance. Now, to me, that Live 8 performance, that's a great finale. That's a great bookend.
yeah.
The band get together one more time. They play together. They put everything aside just for one night. At the end, there's that awkward Dave, he's got his arm, come here for the hug, Roger, and he kind of waddles over, like, ooh. They have that awkward kind of embrace. But it was a lovely little bit of end, to the great band.
Yeah.
And I think Pink Floyd's legacy just keep redigging the grave up because you have that Endless River, which is just, as I say, it's just cuttings off the studio floor. It's nothing.
Why was it marketed as an album, as a full album?
Yeah, that's a marketing issue, isn't it? I think in interviews they were very clear on what it was, but the way it was promoted and released and hyped up, it was like, oh, this is the last Pink Floyd album.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, you should have kept that in the bin.
Yeah.
And recently, a few years ago, they released another instrumental for this Ukraine charity single.
Oh,
and it's like, okay, it's a good cause close to your heart, but leave things alone. We'll get into. I'm going to go down on what are considered by various articles that I've looked up great reunions, but we're also going to look into some bad ones as well. Sometimes just leave a band's name behind. Like you said with Linkin Park, I'm sure there are going to be plenty of people going like, we don't really want this. But according to various articles I've been looking up, these are all considered great reunions, or at least were very successful financially reunions. We've got Black Sabbath. A bit on and off with them, they kind of came back a few times, but I think the last big reunion they had with most of actually it was all 4 original members originally, and then I think one decided not to come back after a while. Around 2012, 2013, new album.
Yeah.
In my eyes, I got to see them live. It was great it was great for me to say, for bragging rights, I got to see Black Sabbath live on their farewell tour.
Yeah.
All in all, a bit lackluster, to be honest.
Yeah.
They were all a bit too old, bit too past it. Ozzy Osbourne way past it by this point. Nothing to scream home about.
No.
You got any love for the Black Sabbath reunion?
Yeah. That album was okay, wasn't it? It wasn't a terror. I could think of worse reunion albums.
Classic Rick Rubin lying on the couch album.
Yeah, it was okay, wasn't it? It was just basically a spoonful of this is our doom metal sound from the 70s.
Yeah.
Ozzy
Something that's a nice little stocking filler for your dad.
Yeah. To be fair, I think Ozzy sounded pretty good on that album, to be fair. I don't know whether that was studio trickery making him sound better, because I didn't see them live at that time.
It was fine. It was fine. I mean, his vocals have never been too overly demanding in Black Sabbath.
No.
He has got that very unique voice, but as I say, it was a lovely little thing for people like me dad to witness.
Yeah.
But all in all, whatever.
Yeah.
Judas Priest, don't know if you've got any history with this band.
They reunited. I thought they just kept going.
Yeah, I always thought so, but apparently they had a reunion. They reunited with the original singer 2004.
Oh, right.
I think they've pretty much carried on ever since. Done very well for themselves. Breeze over that.
Still releasing music, aren't they?
Another one and done. Led Zeppelin, 2007. One-off concert. Do you not remember that?
I don't have any memory of that.
They came back. It was like the ticket. You think the Oasis tickets were hard? This was purely down to a lottery. That was the only way you could get a ticket.
Yeah.
It was a one-off gig, 2007. It was a one and done, and then it was like, right, that's it. That's our bookend. That's our closer. I think my dad had it on DVD and showed me it a long time ago, and it was very impressive. And to be fair, this is coming up to 20 years now, since that, and it was impressive to see him at the age they were back then. to do that. Another one we might not know too much about, the Eagles in the 90s, got back together, was very successful.
They're still touring, aren't they?
Yeah. I think they're on their 50th retirement tour, aren't they?
Yeah.
The Police in 2007, Sting reuniting with the Police, took off, had a quite successful solo career. He's probably known more for himself than the band, so, it's good that he came back and did that. Kiss, they never seem to fucking go away.
No, they don't. I don't know why they consider that a reunion.
I met someone, and I know that they have listened to this podcast, so I'm going to be quite kind to Kiss. But I've never really quite got it. My stepdad loved them.
Yeah.
They seem like a great, like a gimmick band.
I can imagine they're very fun live.
Yeah, a bit of fun. Yeah, a bit of fun.
They're not for me.
This one, which, although it's probably done them very well financially, I'd personally disagree with and think it was a bit lackluster. The Guns N' Roses 2016 Slash Stuff Axl reunion. For me, it was a bit too little too late.
Yeah.
I've seen current live footage of the band, and dear God, Axl, please retire. Just please end this now.
Glastonbury last year, it was painful.
It was painful. It just seems like it was too late, wasn't it?
It was like, I felt a bit sorry for him because everyone online obviously laughing at him and stuff, and I was like, oh man, just stop.
I saw Axl Rose's Guns N' Roses in 2006, and I thought they were great. Saw him in 2012. When he'd packed on a few, and I still thought he was great. I think if they reunited in about 2008, 2009, it probably would have gone down a lot better. Again, it's been a very successful, business venture for them. But it just feels like a little bit too little too late kind of thing. Spice Girls.
Oh my God.
2007.
I completely forgot.
Yeah, apparently that was huge. Can't say too much on that.
No.
They just seem like a thing of a time capsule, like that they should have just been left in the time period they're from. Take That, one for your mum. Shout out to Tracy.
Oh yeah, Take That made a huge comeback.
Not only did he make a huge comeback, but a few years after they actually had Robbie Williams come back for I think 1 or 2 albums. I actually remember really liking a song off that album.
Yeah, The Flood.
No one understood. We were hiding from the flood.
It's a tune.
Learning how to dance.
I knew that's
the song you were thinking of.
Yeah,
I knew it.
With the rowing boat and the music
it's
video.
A tune, it is.
I remember, I don't know if you remember this, I remember talking to your mum about that.
Yeah.
And she was like, Robbie Williams thinks he can just come back and think all's forgiven, does he?
Oh,
do you remember this? I was in the kitchen with it, and she was like, Robbie Williams, he thinks he can just come back in, strolling in. Now the money's dried up and he's come back. And she was going to see them live, and she said, they're going to do a bit where they just do Robbie Williams songs, and I'm just going to stand there, arms folded, going, okay, all right.
I remember that.
There's so many lovely core memories I have of your mum.
Oh, that is fantastic. I love that.
Absolutely. I'm not having it. I'm not falling for it.
Oh, brilliant. The thing is, does she not realise that, Robbie Williams hasn't just invited himself back? The rest of the band have said. The rest of the band have brought him back, basically, because they all stayed together. It was only Robbie that left, wasn't it? At that time.
Yeah. I think another one's left since.
Someone has left
since,
yeah. So, but they came back in 2006 or something.
Yeah. Remember all the songs? Patience? I don't remember. I don't know. No. I never knew that they were like an old band from back in the day. I remember Patience, and I thought, what's this new new band, boy band, whatever you call it.
I knew
boy group
through my mum that they were that they'd come back. But yeah, that's how I remember. If someone says to me, Take That, that's what I think of. I think of that era of the band and not the early 90s, sort of really like the fire, cheesy crap.
Yeah.
I think of that era. I think of Patience and songs like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, they did well for themselves.
Yeah, I can't stand Gary Barlow though.
Oh no, he's a turd.
So now we'll turn to these are the disappointing reunions, the ones that they were just, people saw through it a bit, people weren't impressed. We've got the Sex Pistols. Apparently they attempted a reunion in 1996.
Really?
And I think the main consensus was, as we've said, reunions usually come from a bad place, don't they? They usually come from the money side, don't they? And to see the quintessential punk band do a cash grab reunion, I don't really think that floated too well with their fan base.
No, a similar thing happened with Rage Against the Machine the other year, didn't it?
I'm surprised I haven't put that in the list because that just didn't take off, did it? Just didn't take flight at all, did it?
Did they actually play? Did they actually play shows?
They did,
I
yeah.
think they
'Cause I
did.
remember everyone going mad because
Tickets
before
were
the
£100, weren't they?
yeah, and then before the gigs, they had like loads of like statements on it, and people were like, "Oh God," like typical culture war bullshit. And,
Yeah, yeah.
they were a bit like,
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin feature once again before the great 2007 concert. They actually did try and do another one-off thing in the 80s. Apparently, it sounded really rusty and really bad.
Yeah.
Outcast, don't know much about this one. 2014, they headlined Coachella, and apparently it was really, really poor and really bad.
No, I didn't know that one. No.
This one, as we mentioned with Guns N' Roses before, where the singer is just well past his due date. Motley Crue. Have you ever seen any footage from the Motley Crue gigs?
I have, yeah.
Yes.
Very proper Axl Rose energy. That's what it was giving me. It was giving me Axl Rose vibes. I was like, oh, can't. You need to stop.
Yeah, very bad. The Doors in 2002. I remember my dad going to see The Doors, and he loved it. But because one member didn't, a few members were against it, so they couldn't actually be called The Doors.
No,
so they were going round as The Doors 21st Century. It was, as you said about tribute band, it was tribute band energy to a core.
Well, that is,
I think they had the lead singer of the Clash do Morrison's parts and stuff like that. This is a time capsule band and a half. This was a band that, they were from the time.
Absolutely.
You can't really bring them to a modern audience, I don't think.
Music has moved on so much since that time, hasn't it? And then,
it's not to say it's not good, because there is a lot of Doors stuff. Again, the Doors was a band that my dad was very much into, and I got a lot of exposure off. And some of them were quite all right, and some of them were like, what on God's name is this? It was just the keyboard. I saw a toad on the road, and it said you're gonna die in a lake of long gone fire.
Very druggy music, very sort of, what's it called, like hallucinogenic, classic blues rock, acid rock, whatever you want to call it. Like you said, it's of its time, isn't it? Yeah, I had no idea that they tried to reform without Jim. Which I can't imagine that went over well. I really can't.
I remember my dad coming back from it quite hype. He quite enjoyed it.
Yeah.
The Velvet Underground, another very time capsule band, came back in 1993 and just didn't really manage to take off. That's all.
That's another one. Obviously, 1993 is way before either of our memories started. But Velvet Underground, wow. Back before Lou decided to go on a Metallica album and speak about tables.
Oh God, that is we'll get into that one day. That is definitely an episode for the future, that, isn't it? And this is a tease for next episode, which we've already recorded. We're doing these out of order. Limp Bizkit's 2009 reunion came back purely because metal music was in such a dire state at the time.
No spoilers from me.
No spoilers from Mike. Find out next week. I think I'll drop this next week. Yeah, find out next week. There's a nice little that'll keep you going. And then Dream. Who would you like to see reunite? Is there anyone out there you would like to see reunite? Is there any reunions you would love to witness? Even if it's just one last time, even if it's just a farewell thing.
We've mentioned this a couple of times about the Smiths. I'd love to see the Smiths.
Yeah, I've got that. That was the only one I've got.
It's a pipe dream though. It's not going to happen. But that's one. I'd love to see Radiohead reform as Radiohead.
What are the chances of that?
I don't know, to be honest, because all the members are still active. So, and it's not like they ever officially split up. They're just not. They just went. They just went silent. So that's the thing. It's like you call it a hiatus, but it's not an official hiatus. But all the members are releasing music under different names. So you would assume Radiohead isn't currently active in its iteration currently, but. So that's one thing I'd love for them to tour as Radiohead again. Love to go and see them. Smiths would be great, but not going to happen. Struggling because I don't want to see an old band come back. And
that's terrible. The difficult thing, isn't it? Yeah, it is kind of like something. like, you know, we talk a lot of bands on there, and you've got the bands that had like this absolute flash of albums, and then vanished off the face of the earth. If it's through a member passing, or they just broke apart, and you know, you always wish that there was always more, or you know, you always wish what could have been, and it's never the case. But then you get bands that just ran themselves into the ground, and it's like, you know, maybe it's for the best you stay away. For me, the dream list is very small, because I've seen, you know, like when My Chemical Romance split up, I kind of thought, well, that's it. That's the end of them. You know, I never thought John Frusciante had rejoined the Chili's. I thought, you know, his head had completely just, you know, moved on from that kind of era. Yeah, you know, I think the best reunions that could have been have been. You know, unless any current bands that are great now break up and you've got a 10-year wait. You know what I mean? Like some bands, you know, you kind of wishing they do stop and like, you know, see you in about 10 years, get your heads set straight, you know, Arctic Monkeys maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'll do it. That's pretty much all we've got on the current news and reunions in general. So, you know, if you had any luck, did you get an Oasis ticket? Let us know. Are you looking forward to what's coming from Linkin Park? Let us know. Give the podcast a follow on Spotify and any other social medias, and we'll see you next time for
Limp Bizkit in the house, yo.
Oh no.
Bye.